Yo, 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 everybody, what's going on? Welcome to episode 48 of Climbing the Ladder. I'm your host, ChanmanV, and co-hosting with me today is a nice black chair here. But, no, but John is here. He's having to do something really quick. Kind of emergency came up, so I'm going to replace him with this picture right now. But wanted to welcome to the show our guest today. I'm not going to actually brutalize his real name, so I'm just going to go ahead and just call him Carmac like everybody calls him. So welcome to the show, Carmac.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Definite pleasure to have you on, because I've been wanting to have you on since the IEM Finals, and just with the whole HOTS launch and everything just going on, it was really hard to kind of figure out a time. So really, really happy that you're on now. And I know some of you guys were expecting Paul on too, but unfortunately Paul has to cast something right now. So he might drop in at the very, very end of the show if for some reason his other engagement finishes early. But I don't know. I probably wouldn't expect him on. But he'll be back next week, guys. But so how are things, man? Like, what are you up to now? Are you just kind of winding down after that long season or a crazy, crazy hectic schedule?
No, actually, I'm going through 3 terabytes of footage from the entire season of Intel Extreme Masters, editing a video for the wrap up of the season.
Okay.
So getting my hands very dirty right now, and it's lots of work. We have a annual meeting in Santa Clara with Intel, which I'm going to next week. I'm gonna eat some really, really good steak, man.
Oh yeah.
I love American steak.
Oh, is it that different? Like, you don't have cows over there? What's going on?
Not on so many steroids, man. Steroids must make the difference.
Oh man, that's probably true. Hey, what's up, John? We're live.
Oh, great. Not much. 15-year-old boys. Reminding me of myself.
That sounded really bad, John.
Yeah, it did.
Sounded like Stefano for a second, dude.
You coming back? 15-year-old boys, man.
Only you would think that, Michal. Only you.
Oh, man. So we literally just got started, and Carmac was just telling me how he likes American steak.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Has he had good steak? Where's he been? What did he say?
Oh, man. I know everything about good steak.
Okay. Bring it on. I live in Omaha, dude. Omaha steaks.
There's a lot of good. Yeah, there's definitely.
I live in the middle of the country, where beef is king, and corn, of course.
But don't visit them, man. There's nothing to do there.
What are you talking about? Everyone says that. It's Omaha, Nebraska. It's actually a decent-sized city, like as big as Columbus, which is decent.
But all right, so let's get into some of these topics. We've had 2 weeks of just craziness here. Craziness of just, games launching and bunch of events, and kind of want to just kind of kick it off with the most recent event, and then we'll actually go into your event, Carmac. But let's talk about MLG, because obviously it was just this past weekend, and lots of stuff, lots of buzz surrounding it. So kind of want to just get your general thoughts on the tournament first, and then we'll go into some detail. Carmac, what'd you think?
As a geek, as a nerd, I loved it. Except one thing. I mean, overall, really, really fantastic event. I really enjoyed it probably more than any MLG event before that. And it's not only because it was Heart of the Swarm, it was also because of the new system, which I really enjoyed. My friend John is probably cringing right now, but we'll get to that, I suppose.
So you're talking about the new system, you mean the bracket? I mean, just the new tournament.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And if I had to pick out one thing which I didn't really love so much, is actually having a third place game right after the second semi-final.
Yeah.
Where you have one guy who's had at least an hour to collect himself, rest up, and prepare for the next match, and you have a guy who shattered after a semi-final, and he's made to play a game which is not even a best of 5, but it's best of 3. That's probably something MLG will be thinking about for the next event, because you really need to give time to the guy who lost the second semi-final, in terms of how do you expect the guy to collect himself after just losing in a match which could potentially put you in a match for the trophy. It's not really there.
How much time do you think they actually need after something like that? Because this is a scheduling issue, right?
At least an hour, but what I would do is just skip the third place match, and I think that's...
Yeah.
I've already spent too much time talking about it because it's just a tiny thing. Overall, the event was fantastic, so I don't want to make an impression that I'm trying to rain on someone's parade. The parade was awesome.
Yeah, definitely. John, did you catch any of it?
I did actually, but you'd be surprised. I actually tuned in to watch a lot of the Call of Duty stuff. I wanted to see how that panned out, and it looked as if it panned out really well. I mean, if you look back at the way the Counter-Strike teams used to be, where almost after every point they get up and they scream, and the crowd really gets into it, and there's a lot of trash talking. I mean, granted, in that community, it's still pretty juvenile. But I thought it was, they know I think this too, and I don't hold anything back in that regards. But I thought they put on a really good show. I thought the fact that all of them had really cool jerseys just made it look a lot more professional. The setup looked good. The casters, I didn't like the echoing sound when watching it. Although then I started to think about it, I thought that kind of gives you the feeling that you're either at, you're kind of like at the event.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did kind of, it was okay, but preferably I would have liked to have, been crystal clear, like they were talking in my ear, but I thought it was pretty good. And actually, Michal, I prefer a single elimination tournament. I certainly do, but I also prefer an open bracket, which they obviously did not have. And so the reason I was asking about double elimination was because I know a lot of people have said, well, the single elimination kind of sucks because it's 1 year done, and a lot of people in the esports and community are like, well, we need to have as many games as possible. So it was just a suggestion of mine on the Team Liquid threads that maybe they do like single eliminate. They do an open bracket, qualify X number of players that meet up with however MLG ranks their players. Like 24 rankers. But 24 players that have been ranked, and then you have a 32-man tournament. But when you get to the quarterfinals, maybe you switch it to double elimination. But I agree with you. I think the single elimination added to the drama. I really like that part of it. Again, and I didn't like the fact that I did follow it up until it got to the quarterfinals, and it was all Koreans. I just didn't care anymore.
But it was good Koreans,
dude.
man.
It was so.
It was, but again, but for me, and you guys know this, but for me. I'm still learning StarCraft. I got 15 other games I got to try to tune into, and so it's hard for me to tell like what they're doing if it's really really good. But yes, they were really good Koreans, and that's awesome, especially if you love StarCraft 2. But for me, it just after that point, I just didn't really have much to follow. I did, however, pick up on the drama of. Oh geez, gosh, forgive me, but was it MC who did not drop a unit, didn't lose a unit? Who was it that didn't lose a unit in one of the
in that one game? Yeah, there was one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think MC in that one game, he didn't lose a single unit when he won.
Yeah, and when they started tweeting about that, I was like, that piqued my interest, which goes back to the point that a lot of times that's exactly what tournaments need to do is kind of find that one spot, and this just happened to be a really good one, and so I was like, man, I'm gonna tune in because I definitely want to see this because I obviously understand when somebody's losing a unit. I mean, they're dying. But I thought overall it was actually really good. I like the format. Sundance had said, oh yeah, it's going to be exciting. You'll really, really like it. I'm still holding my breath for the really, really like it part. But I do like it. I did like it. I like the single elimination. But without an open bracket, I can't. I just don't support it.
So here's the deal. First of all, anyone that goes on forums and whatever and cries about double elimination not being there, one statistical fact: there were 15, as in 1-5, MLG tournaments that had double elimination. And John, guess how many of them were won by the guy who came from the lower bracket to the final?
Probably maybe one, if that.
It was one.
one.
There's Leon.
No,
I
hey,
think
I
one
agree
out
with
of
the
15.
elimination thing. I also agree with you. I also agree that a best of 5, the stats show, is no different than a best of 3 as far as who ends up winning.
But that's not the point though, Carmac. I mean, of
Yes, it is.
No,
Yes, it is. What's the
it's
reason?
not. It's
Hold on. What's the
Well-
reason that these players get to play for that kind of prize money? Because what they are doing, the competition between them is entertaining. Now, how can the competition in a final be entertaining if 14 times out of 15, the guy who won the upper bracket wins the final? How's that even interesting?
But
to
Carmac,
watch?
it's the idea that it can happen, and I think that that's what
Yeah.
MLG's, MLG thinks. And hey, you got to remember the difference between you, okay? And I'm just going to say this, whether anyone agrees completely or not. What I think the difference between you and maybe Carmac is, I mean, you are Carmac. The difference between you and Sundance is that Sundance looks at creating an event about the experience and really more about the show than anything, and you've always been one about the competition. So for me, when he's done things in the past like extended series and the double elimination and allowing people to be in the rankings for the entire season that don't deserve it, to me those are things that don't bode well for competition. And but in this case, I understand why you would do it, because it's the idea that hey, it could happen. It definitely could happen.
Hold on, just
gosh, we could go ahead.
how do I say this? Yes, it could happen, but if it's like 2 times out of 5 it happens, then it's okay. But if it happens 1 time out of 15, then you've got 2 years worth of events that it didn't happen. So
No, but that's,
it's.
But look at like the
this
NCAA
is
March Madness right now. The whole idea that these last teams in have a chance is like a really cool thing. Yes, we all know that 98% of the time, whatever the number may be, a 15 seed is never going to defeat a 2 seed. But it happens, and I think that's the whole thing. Is if somebody's just hoping that there's that one time that it does happen.
well. I mean, my whole thing is that within a tournament, there are a lot of it's almost like little micro events inside of a tournament. So sure, like you're absolutely right in the form in saying that like almost all the open bracket people, people that are just trying to make it, will not win the tournament. You're absolutely right with that. But that's not to say that there's going to be these great matchups in the open bracket, or these great this great exposure for the people too.
If we talk about the open bracket, I'm a proponent of the open bracket.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Double
I'm
limb.
Double limb. We're talking about double limb. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm an opponent of double elimination simply because it delivers a fucking boring final. End of story.
Yep.
Super boring finals. Open bracket is great. We had Sting come in Singapore and take it all.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's always a very good story. That's always a nice story to have, and it's only a question of the scheduling, I think, for MLG, where I'm not sure if they figured out a good way to schedule the entire show in such a way where you can, have an open bracket and still have this single elimination best of 5 epicness. Something that John mentioned, for example, pre-qualifying 24 players and then having an open bracket for 8 players where you could, for example, run 8 games out of 16, and during those 8 games out of 16 you have the open bracket running, which is run in a way where it's supposed to be short and sweet and really quick, and then the other 8 games, 8 pre-qualified players have to wait for the open bracket opponents.
Right.
That's something they could potentially do, but again, I haven't sat down with a calculator and an Excel spreadsheet, so I can't figure out if schedule-wise it's doable. But theoretically, it could be possible, but it could theoretically also break the show. If the open bracket runs late, then there's a big gap in the tournament schedule. Then, and it could go nasty. However, you have to still remember that this is something we've been doing for a really, really long time. You need to pre-qualify online. It is, at the end of the day, almost the same thing as the open bracket. At the end of the day, you're not going to MLG to play on LAN physically. You're still playing online, so technically there is not much of a difference except
saves you a lot of money. Saves the players a lot of money.
It saves the teams a lot of money too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Potentially, yes. So people not being able to qualify through an open bracket into the main bracket at an MLG or any other event for that matter shouldn't complain if there are open qualifiers online which they can easily sign up for and qualify and play, and in many cases they can get a free trip to the event. So
yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if, it's not such a bad thing if there is a real proper open qualifier on the internet. So
yeah, I mean, so getting back to single M, I mean, I actually love the single M. And I, going into the event itself, I was actually expecting not to be that wowed by the event, and it was the complete opposite by the end of it. And I'm not sure.
The thing is, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm not sure if it had more to do with how much better HOTS is to watch now. I mean, just the changes in StarCraft 2 and just how exciting some things are now, versus the single limb portion, where just basically every match it has something on. Basically, your tournament life is on the line, or if it was just the quality of the players there. But whatever it was, the end result for me was a very exciting and very clean tournament, which was a good feel. I mean,
we've had many events where players were of very high quality, but none. I mean, I'm talking about me and me alone. This MLG was the most exciting for me of all the MLGs I've seen. Most MLGs I've actually skipped the final because it was a foregone conclusion. And this time I was really pumped and really hyped for it. The reason for it is that it's a subconscious thing, I guess, but in single elimination, every single match feels like a final. It's either you go one step closer to the prize or you're dead. End of story. There's nothing else. Whereas when you're watching double elimination, you're watching the upper bracket, which is mainly interesting because it's got all the good players, but you're not that terrified that, oh shit, MC lost. Because then there is this cushion of a lower bracket. But in the lower bracket, you have this luggage as a spectator knowing, oh, hell, yeah, they're playing for second place. Because you kind of feel that the lower bracket winner will probably not win the entire event, so it kind of spoils the suspense, the tension in the tournament.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I mean, another thing with the tournament too is that outside of there being some kind of foreigner story or hope, the storylines played out great for them. I mean, if you were to say Flash and Life in the finals, I mean, Flash Innovation MC and Life in the semifinals, I mean, you wouldn't ask for it. I mean, you would ask for that, right, Carmac? I mean, that if you were to set up a dream scenario for semis and finals, I mean, that was probably it. So
yeah, and it wasn't just in StarCraft either. There was some really good storylines going on in Call of Duty and stuff. And then, but honestly, though, with as much as that was going on, I was surprised that I just didn't hear or see, or maybe I just missed it, about the League of Legends stuff, and that was that's actually a little concerning to me. Not by MLG's fault, of just that. I hate the idea that it's just going to be a, Riot running the show and everything else just kind of gets, left aside. I just don't. I hope that isn't the case, but it was just odd that I just didn't get the same impression from this. Obviously, it wasn't the same sort of tournament, but just didn't get that feeling that it was being pushed out there as much.
It's because it was just another match. I mean,
the
main reason. I mean, let's be honest. Like, there were still a ton of people watching League of Legends. Okay, there were a ton of people. So, but the problem with the League of Legends portion of the event was that it's no different than what we watch on LCS. Really, in reality, there was maybe one thing that was, it was a special exhibition kind of thing, but for the most part, it's just an LCS event, and it's nice to have as included in the event, just to kind of, add more numbers, just solidify kind of the event itself. But, there's nothing exciting about it because we see it every week, right?
Right. Well, then how's that different than watching, the Koreans play every week?
Well, that's the thing. Like, so, for one, we don't get to see, these players actually put in the same pool every week. We actually don't.
Right.
And secondly, there's something about the freshness of HOTS too. This was like,
Yeah.
even though Carmac, HOTS, your tournament was the first HOTS tournament. This was really the first HOTS tournament where the players got a chance to prepare for it, like have a good solid week of having the game out, getting a chance to play and come up with actually some kind of meta game going into a tournament. And it was really cool because everybody had this preconceived notion of the metagame going in, which Terran was OP, and then Azure ends up winning the tournament. So I mean, there was something really, really exciting about basically that happening.
I think it's unfair to say that players for Intel Extreme Masters did not have a chance to prepare. Obviously, I mean, the playing time in general for MLG, it was the release on Monday evening.
It's like 4 days.
It's like 4 days of practice, so it's not really, a lot of practice. But I do concede that there were some players who were better prepared for Intel Extreme Masters and less prepared for it.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Like, the play wasn't... I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about IEM, like Carmac. It was great. Like, Yoda and those guys played really, really great at IEM. It's just, I just felt like this whole talk about they were supposed to get the game beforehand to be able to even train for IEM. They never did, right? Like, I heard, like, most of the players didn't even get it during that 12 days.
Just to set things straight, beta was closed on, I believe, March 1st.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is exactly the number of days that the game was unavailable. Hold on. March 1st, beta was closed. And March 5th, the players would play it. So it was like 4 days or something that players didn't play the game.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not as bad then. I thought it was longer than that. No?
No, it wasn't.
Okay. Well,
I think maybe the build-up, even for me, from kind of, in a sense, an outsider for StarCraft, was that we had now gained traction of HOTS being out and everything. So it kind of felt like maybe this was this was the first major event. Although I still thought the IEM event was...
Oh, it was the first event. I mean, there's
right.
no,
But technically,
you guys
it was
definitely
the first
were the
event.
first. Yeah. Which was great too, but it was no, but anyways, just getting back to
first, second, third, it really doesn't matter to us, to be honest.
Good.
I personally don't care.
Okay. Oh, okay. Like really okay. I mean, we can get into some of that too because I thought
no, because what we do is we don't have infinite amounts of money to spend or whatever, and in everything we do, what we do is we try to be cost efficient in order to at least break even with anything we do, and with that we're looking at what can we improve compared to the last time we did it. We look at what we do. We don't try to look at others and see what others are doing and figure out and try to compare ourselves, because we're not in a situation where we have infinite amounts of money. We just do the best job we can possibly do every single time for every single event and see where it gets us. It's kind of the same mentality as you have as you need to adopt as a competitor. If you start thinking about how good your opponent is and that you have to outdo your opponent, you're forgetting that all you need to do and all you can control is perform at your very best, and then if that's good enough, that's good enough. If not, then then you lose. I adopt the same approach for Intel Extreme Masters. We do the absolute best we can do, and where that takes us, I don't know, but that's the goal, always to do the very best we can do. I don't care if we are the first event ever to run Heart of the Swarm or the 7th. I don't care, it's a random factor to me.
Okay, so let's talk about that then, because obviously part of that mentality is trying to have the best event possible too, right? Having to, from a successful event, whether it's the setup of it, format of it, but it's also the numbers too, right? And so let's talk about why you chose to do HOTS then in the finals. That was like the big question going in, and I thought, it made complete sense that you would do HOTS, just given that it would A, be the first tournament, and B, like everybody's going to want to see HOTS kind of thing. And being the first tournament is huge. I mean, I figured that would play into the decision, but you're telling me it doesn't play in the decision at all. So Yeah, why HOTS then?
I meant it in the sense that I don't want to take that thing and run around bragging that,
Yeah, no,
that we were
sure.
the first. So
Sure.
I don't care about that aspect. When it comes to Heart of the Swarm, I don't think. I mean, the entire event pretty much convinced everyone. The players convinced everyone that it was actually worth it to do it like that. From my perspective, and again, this wasn't one of these decisions where it's completely black and white, and whatever. It was a decision where whatever you do, you'd have a certain number of people always feeling that this was not the right decision. And my kind of the most convincing thing that influenced me in the decision was the thought that we're actually going for the future. That these that would be playing in the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship at CeBIT would be stuck in the past in Wings of Liberty, in a month behind everyone else that's playing the game. Just because they would have to train for Wings of Liberty and there would be no events that would follow Intel Extreme Masters in Wings of Liberty. So players would be basically stuck in the past, frozen in the past, and that tournament would not actually contribute to the future of StarCraft 2, but rather hold it back, so to speak, because it would be a tournament from which should have happened 6 weeks before the launch and not 1 week before the launch.
Well, Carmac, I can completely understand exactly what you're saying, but from a principles standpoint, and you did say that you weren't going to make everyone happy when the change was made, but there was, obviously there was some vocal angst, I guess, or displeasure in the decision because the qualifiers had been in one, in Wings of Liberty, and now the finals were going to be changed. Was it an easy decision, or did you have to weigh some of the thoughts that, in principle, maybe it would be better to stick with what we qualified with? Or were you just like, we got to move forward?
So we spoke to most players about it, or to pretty much every single player about it. The vast majority of players were completely fine with it, and some players were very, very happy about it. And probably 2 to 4 players out of 24 were not pleased. One of them was, I believe, Vortex, Cass, and I think Slivko.
Okay.
Were not very pleased about it. The other players either said great, or they said it's fine, we will play, no problem. So actually, when it comes to player opinion, it was in favor of Heart of the Swarm overall. We also spoke to Blizzard. Blizzard really liked the idea. Obviously, business-wise, it also made sense for us. And again, my number one argument was the fact that Heart of the Swarm is the future of StarCraft. It's the next evolution. It's the next step. And let's face it, although it's an abrupt thing where the meta game changes a lot because the races get different different options, completely new gameplay options available to them. Yes, however, it's still an evolution of the same game. It's a different game. From one day to another, it becomes a different game, but it's still StarCraft 2. We had an argument with Sir Scoots online, and I wasn't necessarily defending the Heart of the Swarm choice through that. But if you look at how League of Legends changed from the start of the season to CeBIT, it's also an absolutely enormous change, although that was very, very gradual, extremely gradual, and not as abrupt. But if you look at the players who qualified from the first event, the game they qualified with in August is completely different to the League of Legends they played in March. So from that perspective, it's also, it's an evolution. It's it's a difficult choice. I have to say it was a difficult choice, but I honestly believe, especially after the feedback for the entire event, that it was the right one to make. And if I could go back, I would still pick Heart of the Swarm.
Yeah, I think it was absolutely the right choice, and the viewers came. Definitely the viewer count was really, really good, and it was exciting. It was actually exciting to see these players. Just the kind of mix of the players that you have at the IEM events get a chance to play HOTS together. So it was really
the one thing to say about our viewership is that I think it for the hours and for the days that we played it in, which was mostly weekdays from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Yep.
The viewership was absolutely frigging stellar. Absolutely stellar.
Yeah.
And I do believe if we had the same opening times, the same viewing times as, for example, Intel Extreme Masters Katowice, then we would have had much better viewership as well. And that's something we will do our best to fix next time, because we do know that locking Intel Extreme Masters inside trade show hours does not necessarily yield the best viewing times for our audience. So that's something we'll definitely have to work on for next Intel Extreme Masters season.
Yes,
Carmac,
please do. It was really. I had to wake up, I was losing sleep watching that event, man. So it would be awesome if you switch it up a little bit. Go ahead, John.
Carmac, speaking of that, just that you're mentioning the viewers and you're saying next time we're going to try to improve on things, which of course you're mentioning more. You're going to improve on the schedule a little bit better. I have a question. How important is it to you when you assess the success of an event to look at the numbers, the viewership? Is that because some people will assume, and there's a lot of people in the industry or in the community that think, well, if a tournament doesn't get 20,000 views, it's not a success. Do you always see it? Do you see it that way?
So there's a certain minimum that we always expect to achieve, and we're disappointed if we don't hit the minimum. But frankly speaking, I'm pretty sure not all of you will believe. I'm talking about the viewers right now, but I've spoken to Intel about the numbers, and they said, you know what, the numbers are so fantastic anyway that some of the people, that George, the guy that runs Intel Extreme Masters on the Intel side with us, he said, some of my bosses, they actually don't believe these numbers are true. So
that's always a good reaction.
That's not just them that believes that. There's people in the community that do as well.
So I mean, it's in general, we don't really have any pressure from our sponsors to really inflate the numbers or just strive for a bigger number just for the sake of a number. I mean, we do have very good stuff to brag about. We had a peak concurrent viewership of 318,000 in this season. That was our record, and we've got above 250,000, I think, 3 times out of 6 events. So 50% of events we've got above 250,000 concurrent viewers. In the highest point, so our numbers are fantastic. But would I say they are the number one thing? No, the number one thing for us is actually and this is you can't really put it on a spreadsheet. But for me, the number one, the most important thing is the atmosphere that is created around the event, during the event, at the event. How the players feel, do they react emotionally to the competition? Because at the end of the day, what's important to me is that we create something memorable. One of my favorite moments of this season was actually a Skype chat I had with Parting before he came to Katowice. He said, hey, I want to win Intel Extreme Masters, not because of the money, but because I feel like this trophy is the coolest trophy in esports. The big cup that we have with all the player names engraved on it, the past winners, the entire, now 7 years of history of Intel Extreme Masters engraved onto the cup. This is what's important to me personally. That's way more important than having 150,000 concurrent viewers versus 175,000. Even though obviously bigger numbers is something that every tournament organizer wants to achieve, but we're not under a pressure to overperform in one way or outperform anyone. And we've seen many press releases where people talk about their numbers and brag about their statistics, and some of it, I can tell you, in the past has been
All right, this is going to be an interesting choice of words right here.
I can't find the right words not to get myself in trouble with some people that have published numbers in the past, but let's just say that sometimes it got to a point where it was fairly ridiculous sometimes.
Okay, yeah, I mean it's really cool that you're talking about all these things, and as a tournament organizer, I kind of just want to ask you just a general question about when you're putting together these events, when you have all these pieces, you're just kind of like high level throwing these things, like you have an event and what pieces do I put into this event? What are the things that you just have to do nowadays? I mean, we can start with the games, for instance. Like, what games do you just have to put in? Like, is it LoL and SC2 just have to be in every event at this point? And then how do you play from there, I guess?
Well, ideally, our ideal event is the Katowice event, is actually our Intel Extreme Masters World Championship. They are model events where we have lots of floor space, two major stages. We had two very epic stages at CeBIT. We had two epic stages at two really epic stages in Katowice as well. And we had a couple of side stages with different games like World of Tanks, Counter-Strike Go, FIFA, things like that. So typically we want to have one huge stage per one big tournament. That's what we want to have. That's the goal. Sometimes, depending on our events, we have these kind of events like in Singapore, where we're actually looking more for the next generation of esports players rather than to build the most awesome show out there. Some events we're going to have one stage with 2 games played on it. Some events we will have even 3 stages. So, but ideally, if we want to put up a real major event like Gamescom, like Intel Extreme Master Katowice, like Intel Extreme Master World Championship, one game, one stage, epic production value. And I do believe we've really stepped up this season in these terms, actually.
One game, okay, cool. Very cool. So the HOTS numbers obviously at MLG were really high. I mean, it's probably the highest ever from MLG, right? And what are your thoughts?
Not that I know of.
Really?
I believe Adam from MLG tweeted that the highest ever was 175.
Really?
For I think Boxer and Ibra.
Wow. Okay. I mean,
I think that was the number. But these days, actually, in Wings of Liberty, anybody that got 60,000 was a happy person. And now MLG getting over 120, or I don't remember exactly what they had, but they had over 125.
At one point, I saw the stream at 135. When I mean, on the Twitch number, whatever it is, But
yeah, that's very possible.
Yeah.
I think I saw the same, actually. That's extremely impressive, and it was higher than League of Legends, which is now the benchmark of success, actually.
Yeah.
For StarCraft. If it's ever higher than League of Legends, then it's really a successful. Yeah, it's really a successful broadcast. And 125k or 135k is for a single match is something that I would be really happy to really happy to get. Our single match record was, I think, 275k, something like that. That was for League of Legends.
Right. Oh, that was just for League of Legends, not a combination.
Yes.
Oh wow.
No, not combined.
That's
so most of the peaks that you get in all these amazing, beautiful press releases are combined peaks. probably sometimes not even taken from the same moment. Just, oh, this was our peak for this game. This was our peak for that game.
Of course.
And our peak for that game. We'll add all these peaks and we'll say this was the peak concurrent number. That's how it used to be made by some people that sent out press releases in esports. I'm not going to name names. That doesn't really matter that much. What's so funny?
Not gonna name names, but okay, cool.
Yeah, but really, I'm really impressed with the MLG event, and if anyone's watching, I would like to congratulate these guys on a fantastic event, and it honestly was the most exciting MLG for me, just because maybe I'm a complete hater of double elimination, but a single elimination made all the difference for me.
What do you think of the casting?
Very entertaining, I think.
Yep.
I used to be not much of a Husky fan in the beginning, but I don't know, something about this event. That there was something about this event where he was just awesome. I really liked how he commentated.
I had the same reaction, actually.
I really liked how he commentated. I actually tried to hire him for several Intellect Stream Masters events, but ever since I trolled him pretending to be Dimaga, he doesn't really seem very responsive on Skype. I don't know if he's just too busy, or if he's not interested, or if he thinks I would want to troll him or something like that. But I would love to have Husky at one of our events.
It's probably because he's busy.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, you could tell that everyone there was having a really good time.
Mm-hmm.
When you watch it, there is something in the broadcast that kind of
electric.
It just goes through the screen onto you, and you're really enjoying it.
Yeah, and John, like, you made that comment about the whole echo thing. I loved that part. Even though
again, at first when I put it on, I was like,
part.
this is weird, and then I was like, I can see it, working for a lot of people where you get the sense that you're actually in the building. So I thought that it was definitely interesting. It wasn't what I prefer, but I could definitely see where it could be cool.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Call of Duty numbers a little bit. I mean, 35K, I think, is the peak I saw at one point, which that's pretty great for a console shooter right now, right? I mean, at least for Call of Duty.
I think it has to do with MLG's console legacy. Mm-hmm. Which makes it easier for them to pick up numbers. Actually, we had the opposite number of this event held in Europe in our studios, but unfortunately, I'm so stupid that I'm not aware of our streaming numbers there, so I can't comment on how the European stuff went. But I was actually surprised. 30,000 is really a good number for a first time event. Mm-hmm. At your event, it's a really respectable number.
Well, I mean, when you consider the number of people that play Call of Duty, which is higher than StarCraft 2, probably close if not higher than League of Legends, it should be around that number. It's just taken so long for that community to kind of pull their heads out of their ass, and then obviously with MLG supporting it helps, and the developer putting some support into it. It was really good to see it kind of finally come together, and they get their day in the light. In a sense. Now let's just hope that the developers don't come out with a new game 3 months later and then everything has to change again. But I think it was a really good start.
Over 200 teams, man.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
And they will pay to get into these events because they just want it. And, it was like again, Carmac back in the day when people played to go to LANs. They paid to go play, and they weren't concerned with $100,000 check. They just wanted to come play in tournaments, and these guys are kind of at that point because they just want to have this opportunity to compete and obviously get into the spotlight a little bit. And when 30,000 people are watching you, it's a pretty good deal. Now, if the people in chat could just stop being assholes, it'd be a lot better. But other than that, I thought it was really good for them. Oh man, it was brutal. Like,
was it? I wasn't even watching the chat during it.
It was brutal. It was like listening to my son and his buddies, standing at the top of the steps, and they're downstairs, on a Friday night hanging out, just listening to trash talk their, other kids that aren't there to defend themselves. It was Only it was worse because they were calling everyone fat and ugly and.
You must not have a headset when you're playing Xbox, dude, because that's
no,
all I hear, man. Whenever I'm playing,
I know it too, but it's disgusting. Hopefully they grow out of it.
John, you don't like kids much, do you?
Not
he's
today.
old now, man.
Oh,
He's
jeez.
old.
Kids are great, man. Chill out.
They are great.
Kids
until they
are a
do something.
demographic, man.
And now you have to miss the first 10 minutes of your show because you told him not to forget anything, and then he forgets.
Stop whining. You only missed 3 minutes.
I know, seriously, you missed our intro. That's about it. All right, so 2013. So the new season is going to start in the summer. That correct? That's correct, right? All right.
I can't comment.
Oh God, there's going to be a lot of this. This segment's going to be completely worthless.
So
I'm going to go through it
I'm just gonna tell you what I
tell
can
me what
tell,
you can tell me.
what I
okay?
could tell you, and that's it, right? So, hey, we only just closed the season. Obviously, we were talking about this, what we want to see next season, the changes and everything. But I'm going to Santa Clara on, I believe, Friday. I'm going to PAX, GDC, and then to Santa Clara to the Intel headquarters. We're going to sit down. We're going to wrap up the season, talk about the results, talk about the plans for next season, yada yada yada. And we're going to talk about where we want to go, which cities we want to visit, and what we want to do there exactly. So what I can tell you is that for sure we're going to have the World Championship in Europe. For sure we're going to have another event, at least one other event in Europe. For sure we're going to have
one other event in Europe.
1 or 2 events in Asia. For sure, we're going to have an event in North America. Well, 99%. We're going to go to North America. What else? And
so you're talking continents now. Okay, all right.
Yes. And 100% certain we will go to one new place that we have never gone to.
You guys heard
that's
Africa.
As regards events, that's where we are going. That's all I can say. We're working on one place which is hot and very nice and very friendly, and that's all I can say.
Very friendly.
That's all I can say.
IEM Hawaii.
Arizona.
IEM.
It's very hot.
What's in Arizona?
IEM Tahiti.
Arizona is really hot. Sir Scoots is there too. He's really nice.
Oh,
so there you have it. It's really hot and the people are really nice.
Fair enough. We'll go to Arizona.
God, please don't go to Arizona.
Oh, brother, man. All right.
So that's it. What else do you want to know? Games are not decided.
Okay.
Have you guys ever considered like a Black Ops for something? Like an entire circuit.
Anything console, man.
Yeah, anything console. I know you guys do console stuff through ESL and stuff like that, but something more main stage. Have you ever considered it?
No.
Nope.
No, we're Intel Extreme Masters by design. It's a PC.
Makes sense.
PC tournament circuit.
That's true.
That's
true.
We will not do consoles in the foreseeable future in Intel Extreme Masters, which doesn't mean ESL will not do consoles. We've just had a console event in our studio last weekend, so there's that.
Okay, great.
When are you gonna release Paul so he can be on our show more?
It's not him that releases them, right?
No, just asking.
Actually, Paul's a big shot now. You should schedule your show around Paul's free evenings rather than the other way around.
It's probably true.
What are you talking about?
Probably true. It's bad enough we run into the.
Dude, he's casting everything now, man. He's casting.
How arrogant can you be? Come on, man. Have some humility.
I know.
Schedule your show.
Yeah, he's doing
Right.
FIFA events now, dude.
Yes,
What the
I am
hell?
impressed with that.
Oh,
And he's older than me, so you're right. I just need to concede, and we just need it. Chris, you and I are gonna have to talk about that. We just got to changes.
All I know is like, okay, he's doing FPS, that's cool, but he's doing FIFA events now too. It's like,
Yeah, that's
what?
awesome.
This is crazy. It's like every day now. But All right, so I'm not sure if the right question to ask you, but I'll ask you anyways. So the whole ESL paying out everything, is that, have we crossed that date now?
Yes.
Okay, so everything's paid out now.
It's done. Yes.
We're never going to talk about this, guys, anymore. So ESL is paid out.
Look, it's. I think there were some misconceptions about all of it.
Okay.
Money was being paid out all the frigging time, except for some tournaments there was lag with the prize money.
Mm-hmm.
Now across the board over all of ESL, we've caught up to the lag and we pay out on time. Right now, right now we're caught up. There is no player that is sitting and waiting for money, which is older than for a tournament that happened. Damn it! It's late evening. I've had a long day at work.
Sure.
We pay out within 90 days of the tournament. There is no tournament that's older than 90 days that's not paid out, unless the player himself or the team did not submit their paperwork or whatever it is. You'd actually be surprised how many people, even though we email them, how many people simply don't submit their paperwork. Everyone else has been paid out. End of story.
Right. Okay, great. That's what I wanted to hear there. That's I think that's good that you cleared up a lot of that, because again, just people like to complain about things sometimes, and
I understand them. And every time we had a thread somewhere online,
yep.
It sucked. It really sucked because it was a payout lag. It's not like we were not paying out at all, but the lag was decreasing. But while it was decreasing, people would not obviously see it, because how would they? But somebody would say, "Oh, I haven't been paid out for 4 months or whatever," and then people would say, "Oh, these guys are so bad." Whereas every single day the situation was getting better, except we were actually not trying to make a big fuss around it. We just wanted to quietly deal with it, not talk about it at all, just move forward with it. But some Redditors forced us to actually talk about it.
Right. Got it. Okay, so I did want to talk to you a little bit about League, and I know you can't say much about next season, but I kind of want to get your views on just League and this past season, and how you think it went. I mean, and now with Riot doing their LCS thing, how you think it might affect what you guys are going to do in the coming year.
So overall, the fact that there is LCS, it means that on every week you have 4 days of high quality production League of Legends matches, which obviously everyone watches, and there is the saturation effect where if you put up a tournament anywhere, and you can see it with MLG, that it's no longer so special, that there is a League of Legends tournament somewhere in, I don't know, either Dallas or Brazil or wherever. So it's no longer such a big deal if there's a major tournament going on, because it just happens 4 times a week at least. So for that reason, I think everyone's League of Legends numbers will drop a little bit. And as I said, we don't really care as much about the numbers as long as they keep being awesome. We don't really need to be, number 1 with numbers, number 2 with numbers, or whatever. We just need to hit our minimum. I do believe whatever we do with League of Legends, we would still be able to hit it next season. So that's not really a problem. But we're talking to Riot Games, figuring out where Intel Extreme Masters would fit into the grand scheme of things. Obviously, it's traditionally been a high-profile tournament. It's traditionally been a very prestigious tournament, and we want to keep it like that. So certainly we've got a tagline on our branding everywhere, every event we go, world's best gamers. So that's it, we have to have the world's best gamers at Intel Extreme Masters.
Okay. Yeah, I I was just kind of wondering if, like, again, it's just going to start becoming more like, since the LCS is happening, just, really just including league into these events just to have it. You know what I mean? And not necessarily there being some kind of special event around it. More or less just in LCS, just a weekly event for the most part. But you kind of have to have it though, just to kind of just for completeness sake, or however you want to put it.
Well, I disagree. You don't have to have it at all.
You don't.
No.
But it's in a way it's like you're going to get solid numbers.
I mean, it's nice to have,
yeah.
and then you say, well, we're covering all of our bases as far as the top esport games go. But again, you mentioned earlier that you were just going to have there was going to be one event that you would have one stage and maybe one game, right?
Yeah.
We've had an event, this Intel Extreme Masters in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, where we had show matches for Heart of the Swarm, and we had an International League of Legends event. So pretty much we did not have StarCraft in Sao Paulo. We had an International League of Legends event only in Sao Paulo. We've had events in Intel Extreme Masters history where we had a season with, I believe, Quake Live and Counter-Strike and Quake Live, Counter-Strike, and I think World of Warcraft. And we went to China and we did Dota and Counter-Strike, for example. So it was one main title and some side titles based on what the local audience would enjoy. So I'm not going to say that we're going to have every single event of next season two different games or 3 games. It could be just one game, and then it's going to be an epic, awesome event for that one particular community.
So we had asked Sundance, it was last week, right?
The week
He
before.
was on the show, week before?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We didn't have a show last week. So we had asked him what was happening with this collaboration between DreamHack, IEM, and MLG, and he gave a very good answer that it was just kind of one of those things where it was still in the process, it was still being worked out. A lot of what was happening this year had already been planned. What's your thoughts on this collaboration? If you even, I mean, I'm sure you have some insight into it, but will we see anything from the collaboration by the third quarter, by the end of the year, or not?
Oh, we're already doing small stuff which is invisible to the community, like common map pool, figuring out which maps to phase in, phase out, when, how, things like that. We're talking about these things. We're talking about tournament structures, tournament systems. I think I can't, you'd have to ask MLG, but I think conversations between all of us in the past and Blizzard at the same time, I think that contributed a little bit at least to the fact that MLG changed the system in how they run the tournaments. We wanted to get closer to each other in the sense that, you've got 5 different events, 5 different stories, 5 different champions. You have, DreamHack running their system with group stage and single elimination. Intel Extreme Masters running this system with group stage, single elimination, and then you run this, extended series, double elimination bracket with MLG. We just wanted to make sure that the story is easily understood, whichever event you watch. I'm not sure if these conversations prompted MLG to change, or to what degree, or if they did it off their own accord. I can't speak to that, but there are lots of conversations behind the scenes. Unfortunately, it takes time before you get to see the big things that will hopefully come, but the small things are already influencing what we all are doing.
Yeah, oddly enough, I don't agree with that approach of bringing your guys' formats closer together. That's weird. I just don't. No,
it's not. I mean, hey, at the end of the day, look, it's not beneficial to the general ecosystem if everyone's their own island, and let's assume there's tournament A, which runs straight single elimination best of 5. There's tournament B, which runs double group stage and best of 3 playoffs, and there's tournament C, which runs extended series, double elimination, whatever. each tournament claims that it is the tournament to win and it's the ultimate world championship. And you have 7 different tournaments like that. And then there's a guy, let's say PC Gamer or any other let's say BBC guy, that makes a documentary about esports, and he goes to tournament A, B, C, and D, and every single guy that runs the tournament tells him, hey, this is how we run the competition, this is the ultimate tournament, our player is the absolute best in the world, if you win it, you're the absolute champion. And he hears the same story from 7 different people, from 7 different esports brands, and it's just a...
But Carmac, he's going to hear that story no matter what. I don't think the formats...
How is he supposed to understand it? I mean,
well,
how's he supposed to make sense out of it in general? Now,
it doesn't matter if the formats are the same, because just like you said, you can go to any one. For me, the collaboration should really be about... I agree that there should be some similarities, some ways to find similarities, but until a collaboration includes actually saying, okay, we're going to run a series of events between the 3 of us, and then accumulate that, and at the end have some sort of major championship. Until you get to that point, it's always going to be like, my event was better, my event had the champion, and in MLG's case,
actually,
every event they run is a world champion.
So here is the thing. I mean, I would like to see a world, and I'm working towards that, and I've been working towards that for a really long time, where the DreamHack event, it's the equivalent of Wimbledon, and my event is the equivalent of French Open.
Yep.
And Sundance's event is the equivalent of US Open in tennis, if we talk about tennis.
They have slightly different formats, though.
No, they don't.
Well, it has to have character. It has to. Well, keep going.
No, they don't. They all run single elimination.
Yes, but see, that's that's a minor thing. I'm saying
the only difference is the surface, dude, and which is it's just the character.
Part of
with the events is a little bit of the format. The format can be slightly different. I agree. They shouldn't be like crazily different. But if one wants to run a double and the other a single, just like you said earlier, the numbers will say that they're relatively the same.
Well,
I think that it adds
just wait a second. The format needs to be very similar. I'm not saying identical, but very similar, in order for a ranking to be respected and to actually make sense.
Sure.
If you rank a 4th place finisher or a 3rd place finisher in double elimination, that means something else compared to a 3rd, 4th place finisher in a single elimination bracket.
Does it?
So
I mean, really?
It does. I mean, it's not like a major difference, but it does. A double elimination, by the way, has a more precise ranking than single elimination, right?
Sure. Which is more precise. I mean, that's what you would want.
It is more precise, but then some players would automatically be awarded for the fact that they attended a double elimination event as opposed to a single elimination event, because single elimination event, you lose in a quarterfinal, you're 5th to 8th, whereas and you share these points across all these guys that lost at the quarterfinal stage, whereas in double elimination you are 5th, 6th, 7th, etc., etc.
I agree.
Where you get slightly better points, even though So I mean,
maybe you need a different ranking system.
Well, okay.
I mean, look,
that's besides the point.
The thing is, there's a certain degree of simplicity which you need to hit in order for all of it to be globally easily understood. Mm-hmm. And what I honestly, truly believe is that we need to create a system which is not rocket science to understand when you're watching a tournament or watching one weekend MLG, the other weekend DreamHack, and another weekend Intel Extreme Masters. You need to. I don't want to confuse the random guy who bought Heart of the Swarm campaign and had an overlay on StarCraft that says click to play Intel Extreme Masters stream. Next week he plays another tournament stream and he doesn't understand how the hell this guy progressed or didn't progress. Because this event is running best of 5, this event is running best of 3. It's not a major thing. It's actually not a thing at all if you're a hardcore guy and you understand all of these systems and you go to Team Liquid every single day, but it does make a difference if you're not hardcore at all. And for me, it would be really, really difficult to follow tennis if US Open had a different structure to Australian Open, for example. It would be.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference, not for people like you, who, you watch every podcast, every interview, you visit Reddit, you visit Team Liquid, you visit, you talk to the players, you go to events, you understand a lot of it, and you take it for granted. Now, there's shitloads of people out there that don't know even, 1% of your esports knowledge. And it makes a big difference for them if that is simple. And you can hit a point where it's simple and at the same time it really, really works. For example, 32-player best-of-5 single elimination. It's simple and it really works from that sense. And coming back to a previous point, I want to live in a world where I compete with DreamHack and MLG and anyone else the same way Wimbledon competes with US Open. They're all super awesome events, and neither of these events tries to have a bigger penis than the other. Well, that's the type of world.
I disagree there.
I don't think that's completely the case.
That's what makes each of those events is they still do have some of their own identity, and they should still be able to compete against the other event to say, "Hey,
I'm not saying we should be like McDonald's and have an identical Big Mac every city we go to."
Right. That's
okay.
Intel Extreme Masters will always have its own flavor. We will always have our trophy with the engravings, and MLG will always have the glass thingy that they have. We will always
the trophy
have,
is the only difference? Come on.
No,
I'm just giving an example, right? We will probably go to trade shows. They will have live events of their own, They have a very, very different flavor. Even if I run an event with 32 players, a single elimination, and they do, it's still going to feel completely differently.
The thing is,
it's still going to feel like a completely different event.
It feels externally like a different event. I give you that. And I do agree with you that, the whole universal, you need something that's universal too to help people, help people understand it. But the problem is like when you bring up tennis, is that the surface actually plays an integral part of the actual play itself. And the way the tournaments have done, the esports tournaments have kind of differentiated themselves is really creating a different, I just call it gauntlet, which has been the tournament structure, right? Or just the bracket formats and that kind of thing. And so I think the actual, from a high level, it kind of achieved that. It was different having to go through this crazy, grueling open bracket craziness with MLG versus going through, the IEM more pool, single elimination, and even DreamHack more of a pool kind of single elimination type of thing. So they kind of have its character, right? And that's why I was asking Sundance, like, how much of the open bracket do you think is part of your identity as a tournament? So I don't know what that would be, if because you're talking about it has a different appeal, but that's all external. That's all just like when you're not actually playing in the tournament. Then you have this trade show around you. You have this giant DreamHack LAN event. You have MLGs, which is just kind of on its own. That's not the same, right? I mean, that's not really. The players don't have to, they don't have to endure something completely different when they're playing the tournaments. The tournaments would still just be the same if they all had the same format, single limit 32 bracket or whatever. So yeah, I mean, that's what I would be afraid of. Is just the personalities of y'all's tournament, or the not the personalities, but the uniqueness of each of y'all's tournaments.
I wouldn't be afraid of that. I mean, there's always going to be like this DreamHack event, which has its really, really unique flavor with, Robert Olin being this crazy guy with a bottle of whiskey and a cigar on stage or whatever, the DreamHack CEO. That's what really the personalities behind the tournaments, that the personalities that create these experiences for you, they really influence how the broadcast is going. And are they hitting for a rock show type of broadcast, or are they hitting for an ESPN type of broadcast? You know, this is the key difference here. This kind of identity, this personality of the broadcast, rather than a tournament structure, which is to be honest for me is actually secondary. I mean, you had let me give you an example: World Cyber Games and ESWC. They had very similar tournament structures at some point for some events, and yet the feeling of how the event was produced in the old days, and by the way, I probably lost half of the audience now because they don't know what ESWC is. But the feeling around these events was completely entirely different. So I don't really think that a tournament structure will if it's more made to be more unified, that it will contribute to tournaments losing their identity and their uniqueness.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I can totally understand it if you're there, if you're at the live event. I can totally see that. But me as a viewer from home, I guess if you had different casters at all of them, which the casters are starting to be hired by like you guys have Colaris, right? And MLG has like X7, Axel, and I mean the casters seem to be getting hired by the organizations. But for the most, but a lot of times you see all the casters at all at some of the same events, right? Like you'll see Apollo at all the European ones, for instance, and you'll see you'll see Artosis and Testosis everywhere. So even that part of it for me at home, not to say that I kind of mix them all. I mean, I kind of know you guys, so I definitely look at all your tournaments as something different right now. But I'm just afraid that the average person will kind of think it's all the same.
Yep.
When you don't
Get
have
bored. People in the chat are saying right now, and this is so frustrating because they just don't get it. But I'm not pissing people off. But that it's chaotic for casuals not to understand the difference between a single elimination and double elimination. Like, oh my God, there's so much going on. This tournament had group stage. This one had. That is not the problem. The problem is one, they obviously. Maybe they need to understand those things a little bit better if they don't, because it's not that hard to get.
Soccer does it, okay, guys? I mean, everybody understands soccer, right?
It does format slightly different.
Football.
If you can't figure that part out, you're doing something wrong.
Football.
What the confusion comes in is how that information is portrayed, if it's even out there. I mean, and I'm not naming names, but you can go to some websites and look for brackets for 20 minutes and you won't find the results that you're looking for. So the problem isn't necessarily the formats. Although, again, I want to make clear, I do agree that there needs to be some similarity, some sort of like, okay, these are 3 sanctioned formats, or these are the formats that we want to use and this is the way it should work because this will feed into our rankings. But to say that one event can't have, and I'm speaking more to the chat, one event can't have double elimination, the other one can't have single, the other one can't have group stage. Oh my God, it's so confusing. That's just ridiculous. Sorry, I'm getting on a rant here. But the problem really comes in the fact that websites are horrible, organizations are horrible at displaying that information, they're horrible at sharing it. They put out an infographic that they think is easy to understand. It only confuses people more. The easiest one to use is Liquipedia. Of all of the websites that I've been to where it's clear, right there, no offense against ESL, but ESL is better than others, I can tell you that. Laying that information out there is probably more important than anything. And the fact that, and then for people to say it would make it easier to follow is just ridiculous because we have 15 different games to follow. Well, technically maybe 3 or 4. And all of the games have different elements about them. So the whole industry is chaotic. So maybe it's just really a matter of just sharing, collecting the information, sharing it in an organized fashion. I still believe that the formats can be slightly different at each event. You need to come up with the right ranking system, and that means dropping raw points, and I can just get into that later. But there are proper ranking systems that would work across all games.
Well, what do you
There's
think?
all sorts of things that you can do differently where you don't have to like conform. One thing I liked about MLG's extended series was that everyone hated it. And I hated it too. But if it's a legitimate, and that's questionable because I don't necessarily believe it's legitimate, but if it is legitimate of a competitive format, then it should still be considered. And it's part of what MLG is. I mean, I really think for a long time they just stuck with it because they're like, hey, this is our thing, and we want to do it this way, and we love the drama. You know what? There's not a bad thing in that either. But again, I do agree that there should be some similarities. I just don't want it to be this conformity where, like, I mean, listen, there's a reason not a lot of people watch NASCAR.
I gotta jump in.
Sure. Go ahead.
Just anytime, dude. Just jump in,
MLG's
brother.
extended series is like Kim Kardashian's fat ass.
I wasn't going to go there, but it is. You're right. I don't agree.
Hey, some people like it, man. Some people like it.
Chris, I'm gonna hang up on you if you repeat that.
I was talking about Kim Kardashian's. I'm talking about Kim
You don't want
Kardashian's.
to be known for having a fat ass. I don't care who you are. You don't want to be known for that.
Oh man. I agree. All right. I hated the extended series too. Okay, but you're talking about Kim Kardashian's. That's what I was talking about. But what do you guys think about at least for a period of time, like doing what Carmac is talking about, which is like we are you conform a little bit, and then once we get to the point where there is more of a universal understanding, then we start changing it up a little bit. I mean, can you see a world that's like that, or you don't think that's good either?
Why would you introduce order for everyone to understand and then walk away from it?
Well, it's not really order. I mean, okay, so I don't know. It depends on how you look at it. I don't look at it as chaos right now. I just look at it as a lot of different languages that like you said, people don't necessarily understand all the languages. But once there's like a universal language, then you can kind of like do a little dialects of this common language, and people will still kind of have that commonality and understand it, so they can process the changes. I don't know. It's just
I think overall, see, in general, 4 events by MLG or 6 events by Intellect Stream Masters or 4 events by DreamHack will not sustain the entire ecosystem / community on their own.
Yeah, right.
So the idea is, in order for all of us to benefit, we need to have something which overall properly adds up to a bigger picture.
Yep.
That's the idea. It's not even about the frigging simplicity, but all of our efforts added together need to add up to a bigger picture. And for that to work, for our world ranking to work, where we can legitimately see who the #1 player in the world right now is, not who the frigging winner of this weekend is, but the guy that was the best over the last 6 months or whatever, is to combine all of these events with a common ranking system and some sort of unifying look, so to speak. It doesn't have to be like they're all bricks identical. It doesn't have to be like that. But the point is not for there to be like simplicity for the sake of simplicity. That's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is for our efforts combined to create an ecosystem which is sustainable, where players get more money, where commentators get more money, where spectators get a better story. That's the idea. It's not simplicity for the sake of simplicity.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
I agree with that too, but I just think that eventually, hopefully, we will get to the point where IEM, DreamHack, MLG individually are just enormous entities themselves, right? Like hopefully we'll get there. Of course, the current state we're in, we need this kind of more of an aggregate look at it, right? And having us all kind of combine and do that. But I don't know. Maybe it's something as simple as just map pools or something. I mean, I know you guys are like coordinating with map pools, but there's nothing that's equivalent to golf or tennis, where it's just like a different challenge at those majors. So I don't know. That's enough at that point. I'm not gonna stick with it anymore. it's kind of, I think it's not worth even talking about anymore. But so why don't you guys want to take some questions?
I mean, let me just ask, who's the #1 player in the world right now in StarCraft?
We don't
Undisputed.
I mean, we can't. I mean,
can't really say.
I mean, life.
Who was the #1 player in the world undisputed 3 months ago?
Yeah.
Brad, don't even know.
6
I
months.
totally agree, and that's why I totally agree with you. There has to be some sort of circuit, some sort of collaboration that they work together to determine using some sort of ranking system. and you can each still have your own, your own event. It can still be its own identity. I totally agree with you. I couldn't agree more.
I mean, my whole thing. So ranking, right? We have rankings in tennis and golf too, but they play in these crazy different conditions. Like Rafael Nadal is going to dominate clay every single time, right? I mean, Djokovic, he's going to be better on hard court than he is, even though he's good at everything. But he's going to be better on hard court than he is on something else. So, I mean, you have players that are better at certain surfaces. I mean, they're going to be better at those certain tournaments, and it's because of what that tournament, throws out on them, which is like, presents to them, which is like the surface. And so
or
for
the
me,
links versus a regular.
Yeah, whatever. The wind. I
is.
mean, the British Open, the wind is like ridiculous there, right? And it's a links course. I mean, it's
and those elements
just
add to the excitement of that event and kind of add to the lure of that. Our event offers something different than your event. So, but I think we just nitpicked on that, Carmac.
Yeah.
But I do agree overall,
is.
totally. I mean, I've written it out. I've actually drawn out on a piece of paper. I was actually going to try and look for it, but I've drawn out my idea for a circuit between the three and how the rankings could work and how each could still be its own event. But you're right. It's all about growing that pie much bigger.
Yep.
We can't grow it if we're all fighting against each other within the same space.
Yeah, I mean, I just again, I just think at that period, hopefully, will be. It's just a temporary period, like a period of a few years or something, and then it'd be great if I could, like Carmac, you came up with this amazing idea that presented a different type of challenge to the players that some of the others didn't, eventually. But that day is not today, though. I agree with that.
I do have a question from the chat that was asked much earlier, but it might play a little bit into kind of what we're talking about here, but. Doc Matrix 31 asks, Carmac, do you feel that the closure of IPL, and I may have missed this, did you talk about this in the first 5 minutes?
No, he didn't.
Does the closure of IPL, has it resulted in less saturation in the industry and bolstered other tournaments, or is the reduction in competition between organizations a bad thing?
Overall competition is a very good thing always. However, it's too early to say what the influence is of the closure of IPL, simply because there was not supposed to be any IPL activity right now. So right now it's not affecting anyone, and we'll talk about it maybe in 6 months from now. But if there's one thing for certain is that in Polish there's a saying that life hates void, and that if there's a void, it's always filled somehow. And so sooner or later, there's this void left by IPL is going to be filled with something else. Simple as that.
It's going to be filled by IPL again.
Yep. So less than 6 months.
I don't think so. I mean, personally, I don't see like there's much sense in buying a brand which has IGN attached to it.
It will be called IPL.
IGN is no longer interested in having anything to do with it, actually. So it was the IGN Pro League, and IGN doesn't want to have anything to do with it. Why would you buy the brand name of IGN Pro League? I mean, what's the point?
Well, it would have to. I mean, if it's going to get bought, yeah, it's going to be rebranded. But it's
Then why would you buy it? Why would you buy it? All you need to do is go out to all the people that work there and hire them.
Yeah,
there's nothing to buy.
I mean, that could be what it is. I mean, what pretty much it is underneath the covers, right? It's just buying the personnel and the IP. But yeah, we'll see. I think we'll find out pretty soon here. So, all right. So should we take some callers? You guys cool with that? All right, we're cool with that. It's all right. Let's have James. James has been wanting to call in here, so he's been dying to talk to you, Carmac, or ask you a question. If you guys want to call in your question, go ahead and add me on Skype, ChanmanV ID. I'll pull you in here. James, you there?
I am, but John actually asked my question. I was Doc Matrix in the chat, so thanks, John.
Yeah,
you got another question?
Up on it. Is there anything extra that you want to ask about it?
Well, I mean, it's interesting to see, whether or not IPL will come back at all. I guess what I'll do is, I mean, Carmac kind of touched on this a bit earlier, but I'm quite involved in team-based FPS stuff, Try specifically, and I guess I wonder, is there any chance of seeing another genre come into IEM, either a first-person shooter or maybe even a fighting game?
That's a good question.
There is, however, it's always a logistical limitation. I mean, we would, in theory, love to have like 7 different games and 7 different genres in Intel Extreme Masters. However, we do only have like 1 stage. Sometimes at some events, or 2 stages, and it's just if we have 7 different games, you need 7 sets of equipment, you need 20 people for each broadcast, and it becomes really expensive, and there's only so much floor space that we can get for any event. So we're probably going to stick to 2 games for next season. Sometimes in some cases maybe 1 game, in some cases maybe 4 games, but overall there will be 2 main games next season. And which genres, I'm not really sure. We've considered fighting games before. We all come from an FPS background. It might be surprising to some people, but MLG is also not coming from RTS as well. And probably if the boss's particular would be a reason to include a game, they would be still running Halo as the main game. I believe Sundance is a big Halo fan.
Can I maybe ask a follow-up question to that? You mentioned floor space and stage space is quite an issue. Does IEM as an organization prefer to run at things like CeBIT, Gamescom, those big trade shows, or do you prefer the standalone events?
It's a very interesting question. There's no single way to answer it. I mean, Gamescom has advantages over a standalone event, and standalone events have their flavor as well. Disadvantages of going to a trade show is that you're locked into opening times, and they're not always ideal for broadcasting. However, you get to tap into an audience which normally, you get to expand the esports audience in general. You know that there's going to be a ton of people coming, and let's say a certain percentage of these people will not have experienced esports before. So that's always good. We always at these events create new esports fans. So it's really difficult to find a better model where we introduce new people to the industry, to the esports industry. However, on the other hand, you've got an Intel Extreme Masters Katowice event, which is a standalone event where you had all hardcore fans coming over, who everyone knew who MC was, everyone knew who SK Gaming were, and things like that. So that's better from this perspective, that you get to decide your own opening times and streaming hours, and you've got an audience which is not guaranteed to be large, but you've got an audience which is very dedicated and passionate. I'm leaning slightly towards standalone events, but that's a much more expensive model.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, thanks, James.
Thanks very much. Catch you around.
Yep. See ya. Okay. All right, we got Dan. Let's see. Does Daniel actually want to call in here? I'm not sure about this, but Vertitu wants to call in. Vertitu.
You're never going to get it.
Hey, buddy, what's up?
Yes, hello.
Hello.
I would like to ask you, Carmac, about a brand thing, as a brand is important thing for IEM. And you have been letting community casters to cast your events. And I would like to ask, why do you not give them some kind of overlays or things like that to connect them with your brand?
So last events, I do believe for the last at least 3 events, we've had any streamer that was allowed to stream our event officially had overlays.
Yes, yes. It was overlay that connected with the Intel Extreme Masters logo or something like that, but I would like to see precise, the same overlay, I would say. The same overlay on each streams.
So as the
we did. We did have that. I sit in an office room with a guy that actually sends these overlays to to these people. So every single streamer received an identical overlay with the same sponsor logos and with the same Intellect Stream Masters logo, where there was one space where they could individualize, like in the corner, they could put their own streaming logo if they were like, I don't know, Johnny Bravo TV or whatever, they could put their own logo in the corner. Otherwise, the overlay for the streams, it was identical. It's like somebody in the stream chat is writing like a media package.
Yeah, maybe that person that you're talking about just didn't use them or something. I don't know.
I mean, it's possible dealing with community casters, so
Yeah.
this is something we're
misleading
conscious of.
because it's also a thing about DreamHack. I see those tools. As two events that were not using them, opposed to MLG that has only, let's say, 2 streams and they're identical in a format.
Oh,
Yeah, well, we do have like any streamer that wants to stream us gets a set of commercials, gets a set of overlays that he uses, and gets a set of guidelines how to talk about the event. So there's a right name of the event, so it's Intellect Stream Masters Katowice and not I don't know, Poland Game Show or whatever they want to call it, things like that. So we are conscious of that, and it's not always easy because it's, you know, we're dealing with a very young industry in general, and the level of professionalism across different countries is different, but we do work very hard towards that.
okay.
Mhm.
All right.
And I would,
You have one more question? Okay, go for it.
yes. I would like to ask if have you tried to work with some kind of universities, the private ones like we see MLG works with, the one I forgot the name. What it is?
The Full Sail University?
Yes.
Okay.
If you try to appoint some kind of university from Europe to maybe get something like this to promote the university for some financial or something like that.
I'm not really sure what you mean, actually. I mean, we've had cooperations with political institutions. We've had cooperations with universities that studied, sociology and things like that. I was actually invited to some seminars where, worldwide gaming interested sociologists would discuss esports. So from that perspective, we do have cooperations with, as I said, political institutions and, as ESL, of course, political institutions and universities as well. But I'm not sure if that's exactly what you mean.
Okay.
Maybe not exactly, but okay. I got the impression what you want to say.
Okay. Thanks for calling in, buddy.
Yes.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Hobo Clone. I will get to you guys. Don't worry. I will call you whenever it's time, guys. There's a lot of people who are trying to call in, so. Hobo Clown.
Bets on if it's a troll.
Yeah, how's it going?
Hey.
Okay. Hello.
All right, so I've got a question for Carmac. I used to, about 9 years ago, I used to be a competitive Unreal Tournament 1v1 player, and I know you kind of came from you came from Quake and all that stuff. So weren't you a Quake player?
Young man, I was Unreal Tournament.
You were UT? Oh, okay.
But he obviously wasn't as good as you because you don't remember him.
Oh.
Dude, esports wasn't even a word back then.
Dude,
Like,
hold on. John, he wasn't good because I don't remember him.
I thought-
Exactly.
Okay, yes, you're right. You could probably have kicked my ass. But anyway, id Software and Epic Games have kind of dropped the ball, at least in my opinion. There's not really a good sequel from either of those developers. So what's your take on the current state of the first-person shooter scene? Like, what do you want to see come in the coming year? Like, I know CS:GO is doing all right, but that's 5v5. Like, me and you are 1v1ers. So what's your take on it?
So first of all, historically, team games, for one reason or another, always were more popular than mobile games. I think it's because people, I don't know, it's maybe more of a social experience, or people just want to have a back to hide behind in case something goes wrong. Whereas in a one-on-one, you only have yourself to blame or lag. Otherwise, what I want to see is a super fun game, which is a mass game at the same time, because an esports audience will always be mainly built out of the people that play the game themselves. So for any esports game to succeed, and there probably might be an exception here or there, but for an esports games, as a rule of thumb, to succeed, it needs to be a really mass game with a shit ton of people playing that game. And it needs to be just fun to play and fun to watch. That's a very general answer, but these are the kind of the biggest checkboxes.
Interesting. So, does IEM have any plans to do like Counter-Strike Go or anything like that in the near future?
Well, right now, I believe there was an EMS1, raid called EMS1. Playoffs right now are being played, or were being played, and it was significantly, the viewership was significantly lower than Dota 2. And by the way, chat, yes, I think my microphone is not top notch.
Yeah, you're going robot on us.
Interesting. All right. Well,
so to answer your question, right now, the CS:GO needs to have way better numbers for us to consider it for Intel Extreme Masters.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. I mean, I really wish I could be good at a game right now that's being played at a mass level. I'm trying to be good at StarCraft, but it is really different than a dueler game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can just cross my fingers and hope that Epic Games or id Software does something right.
Well, good luck to you.
Yeah, Epic Games, if you're listening, bring back the dash jump. Bring it back.
That's jump. All right.
All right.
Thanks,
See you
buddy.
guys.
Yep. That's funny. That's funny. All right, we got you, boss here. We'll take let's see, we'll take two more maybe. Still got some time. We started questions early today. You, boss, pretty regular watcher here, a regular caller actually. He calls a lot.
Oh, hey everyone.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Yeah, I was on busy, so I didn't see you ringing until I heard my name on the stream. Okay, never mind.
You're
First
from
of all,
Sweden, right?
no, sorry, what?
You're from Sweden?
No, I'm from the Netherlands, but yeah, close enough.
Close enough.
Yeah, first of all, just a small moment of fanboyism because I met you, Carmac, last year on Gamescom. You are a fantastic person. You really took your time, and it was really glad meeting you.
Get off of here, man.
No, that's just flossing a bit. But now to my question. I've seen your interview about speaking about Dota 2. I think you not only have one, but I've seen one that's particular, in which you said that you guys are not against the idea, basically, but there has been no contact or no establishment as much as Riot did with you guys. I just want to know if there's any progress in that, because it's been a while. Because I'm really big Dota 2 fan and would like to hear any information, I guess.
Well, first of all, if you're a big Dota 2 fan, what are you doing? I'm sorry, Chris. What are you doing watching Climbing the Ladder and not...
Hey.
I
Not
play
esports. Not
StarCraft 2,
StarCraft.
I play League of Legends, I play Dota 2. I'm not discriminating anything. But
Yeah,
I
well,
guess
Raid Call EMS1 running right now. Let me see, ESL.tv if it's on.
There's a lot of things running right now. Let's see.
Yeah, it's...
Star Wars League.
It's live.
And Star Wars League's League of Legends.
Yeah,
right?
it's live. It's live, and it's Absolute Legends, Team Liquid playing, and a couple of other teams. So go to ESL.tv and watch some Dota right now. But to answer your question, we're considering games after the end of each season, and right now we are considering what games to use next season. But I really can't comment about exact chances or anything, because I don't want to have an entire community be disappointed with me if I say a couple of words too much and then it doesn't work out. So I can't say anything. I have to keep quiet. Sorry.
okay, fair enough, I guess.
All right, thanks, buddy.
All right, thanks, guys. Have
Yep.
a nice
Thank you.
night. Bye-bye.
Go watch Dota, man.
Judging
Out of you.
Judging by the chat, my voice is really not working out too well.
Yeah, it's like a robot right now.
Maybe we should try to call in again.
Oh yeah, did you do the call again? Okay, yeah, give me a second. Hold on a second, guys. We're gonna restart the call here, and we'll be back in a second.
Did we even take a break yet? We can take a quick
but
break.
all right, let's take a quick break.
I need a drink.
Okay, we're gonna take a quick break.
All right,
This might be an extended show.
might be next in the show. We are back. Sorry about that, guys. We just wanted to fix the mic issue with whatever was going on with Skype and get a drink.
We should have done it long ago.
I know we probably should have done it long ago, but
we just went through it.
we still win. You know, this will be the Carmac robot issue or episode. But okay, so QN wants to call in here. He's just been calling me nonstop here. I've just been ignoring him the whole time.
Finally.
Oh, wait a second. Hold on a second.
Yeah?
Right, there we go. Yep.
Oh, wait, yeah. I have a two-part question. That's kind of rude because I know everyone's calling in, but it's also been rude for you to kick me off, so you kind of have to accept it.
Okay.
So we'll start off with the easy one, and that's for Carmac. And might be it's not a troll one, but Carmac, who's the favorite esport personality you have lifted? Because I know you like to do that. And you can't say Yoda, because that would just be too easy, because that was your last one. You have to think back.
Lifted
You're
meaning
Swedish,
carrying.
right?
Meaning carrying.
Yeah,
No,
carry, yeah.
Tell me you're Swedish.
I'm very close to Sweden.
Danish?
Yes.
Okay, then I can't speak a word of Danish. Never mind.
I understand Swedish, but
okay,
that's fine.
I'm failing horribly with guessing what accent people speak. Never mind. Person that I lifted. Let's see. MC.
MC.
I actually lifted MC, even though, damn it, I don't know if today I would. He eats a lot of meat, and it shows.
Dude, yeah. Dude, I had dinner with him in Irvine, and he eats a lot. He's a big boy.
Well, on to the more serious question, though. How do you feel about agencies in esports? Because I know, Carmac, you've actually had to deal with the good agencies since you've hired at BC and Apollo, and we also had Chanman had Dimaga on yesterday, and he also had an agent that hired, hires the players. But how do you feel about agencies in esports?
I don't have any feelings about them. I mean, it's just how do I say this? It's just a natural progression of the industry, right? Something that you will always deal with if people are, let's say, too busy, or it's not their core competence to negotiate contracts for themselves. Why wouldn't they use an agent? It's just a natural step that was bound to happen sooner or later. Nothing really, major to talk about here, I think.
You'll start seeing it more, in fact, I think, in the near future.
Yeah, but
You might even start seeing more of that than you do teams. You might see more individual player management, I think.
I'm not really sure because, let's take a look at any one of us could probably mention a couple of players who really had a good 6 months and everybody was talking about them and then kind of like went down. As a sponsor, you don't really want to take that risk. You want to attach yourself to something more consistent than just a single player who may be on top for a quarter of a year, 2 quarters of a year, and then he's gone. You'd rather be attached to a team, for example. That's much better, in my opinion.
Well, there's a hybrid right now. Like like let's just talk about what's a good example of it. I mean, even like Violet and like Violet. I mean, he's on Azuba, right? But I mean, or he was Violet went to the Empire for a while, right? And he was represented by Andrew. So there's a combination of you don't have to be. They're not mutually exclusive, is what I'm trying to say right now. So having an agent can just be the mechanism that the players use to help search for new teams and that sort of thing. Not just sponsor individual sponsorships, right?
True.
Okay, you have another question, Kewin, or no?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
MC is the toughest one, what was it? The toughest one or the most memorable one? Person that you've carried? I forget.
I think it's a mixture of both with in MC's case.
I have a quick question while waiting for the next person. Who was someone that you went to lift? And if for those that don't know, this is something that Carmac does. Who was somebody that you went to lift and it went horribly wrong? Now, I don't even actually know, but I'm just curious if that's ever happened. Like, did your back go out? Did you fall down? Did you not achieve the goal? Did they fight you off? Was there anyone that happened with?
There was one guy I dropped.
You dropped?
No. So here is the deal. I picked a guy up, fairly big guy, and I lifted him upside down. And he panicked. He kind of shook his leg a little bit, so that took me off balance, and I wasn't able, because he was relatively big. I was holding him like that. I wasn't able to
drive him. Jeez.
to properly hold him. So I kind of directed the flow of his of his landing on the back so that he wouldn't get hurt. But I dropped a guy once.
Any prominent figure or?
The managing director of ESL TV. Back when I wasn't working for ESL TV.
Oh, okay. That's good. You've been fired immediately. Okay, Kevin B. Body slam. Kevin, what's up, man?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good. Got a question, man?
Yeah, I was just curious. With the recent little bit of a booing incident where Day9 spoke out to the crowd, don't boo Flash. I was just curious your thoughts on the subject of booing in esports, because they always ask the crowd to get really hype, really into it. But if we're treating it like a sport and a competition, sometimes you want to boo the opponent.
It's a good subject. Good subject.
Could not agree with you more. Yeah, I want to hear Carmac's thoughts on this. Let's hear it, buddy.
I mean, sooner or later it's going to happen one way or another. It is going to happen. It's kind of like the agency question. I just personally hope it's going to come later than sooner, just because booing is still a negative. It's still a negative thing. It's still the crowd actually going against a player rather than for a player. I think people in general should focus on supporting their favorites rather than trying to put one player or another off with booing. But personally, would I think that we failed as an industry if people booed at events? I don't think so. I mean, there's always going to be this hero and anti-hero, and if people choose to boo, let them. Why not? It's a part of the show. It's a legitimate part of the show. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not going to condone it, but I'll certainly accept it.
Well, isn't there See, it's a really good one because like I'm not because I had mixed feelings about it, and you know, a lot of people talk about, you know, other sports, and if we're really going to be a sport, then you should be able to boo people. That's true, but you know, there are sports where the etiquette is that you don't, you know, you don't, you know, there's certain etiquettes like in tennis, right? Where you don't clap when the person hits the ball in the net, right? And that sort of thing. And I don't think it's completely outrageous for us to have proper etiquette, especially since these tournaments really aren't it's not localized, you know, like MLG and stuff. I mean, they're not necessarily supposed to be localized, right? Where there's like a home team, that sort of thing, you know, foreigners home team. And
Someday.
maybe someday, but these, you know, right now it's not. So I don't think it was completely, you know, I don't think it was completely wrong for people to boo, but I don't think it was completely wrong for Day 9 to ask for etiquette either from the audience. Given that it was Flash too, so I mean, it was, you know, obviously there's an added respect level, right, for Flash. So it's an interesting thing.
Why?
Just
Why do
because
I
you're a
have to
legend.
respect a player I don't
No,
like?
you don't. You don't. No, give me. You don't have to do anything you don't. You don't have to do anything you don't want. I mean, I'm not saying you do.
I have a team I like, and you know what? I can't stand the Vikings. I cannot stand the Minnesota Vikings. I will root against them at all costs.
Yeah, but that's football. This isn't football.
So
I'm just saying. It's not.
the whole idea is to follow players that you enjoy, that you like. There's a reason that Idra is hated and loved at the same time.
I know, but Idra wants the boo. I mean, some of these people. It's different. It's different when MC's trying to get boos and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's a lot different when you're trying when somebody else isn't trying for, you know, like trying for that. I mean, I think Carmac's right. There is a negative connotation for somebody who's you know, not necessarily in that, you know, like not asking for that, you know, basically, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with cheering for your favorites. I'm not saying don't cheer for your favorites. I'm just saying, you know, don't necessarily like throw things at the guy who.
No, I agree with the etiquette. I mean, there's just certain times you just don't want to do things.
Yeah, I compared it to football also, where I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan,
Sure.
and we boo at our own team most of the time.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, well, thanks for your thoughts, guys.
Yeah. All right. I think that might be it for Skype questions, but so we wanted to kind of, well, so that's gonna be it for Q&A, guys. But
I have one more.
Oh, one more? Okay.
Because it was a follow-up question. I
All right,
apologize.
Sure, go for it.
So, and this is an interesting one. And darn it, I forgot to write down the person's name, but I think he had actually called in and then he forgot. But has there ever been any thought of bringing or taking IEM to South Korea instead of bringing the South Koreans to you? Have you ever thought about doing an IEM event in South Korea?
I'm not really. To a certain extent, I'm not really sure they need us as much, and it's the same question with Sweden. Why would we really try to go to Sweden if they already have events, which are very good events as well? By the same token, why would we bring Intel Extreme Masters to Korea if Korea already has these events? And there are so many countries which where there are passionate fans, but there's no event that would be held in that country. Why not bring Intel Extreme Masters to these countries like Singapore, like Brazil, for example? I think overall, globally, we're making a much bigger difference for esports if we actually go to a place like, I'm going to say the events that we've been to, let's say Dubai, South America, so Brazil, Kiev, for example, Singapore, Taiwan, things like that. It's much better for us to go there rather than just to go to a market which is already saturated and people already have lots of events, you know, on a practically weekly basis.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I think that's great what you guys do, and because it's definitely going to help the growth of esports more so than, like you said, just having redundant type of events, I guess.
By the way, we've been to Korea. I just looked it up. I wasn't 100% sure, but we've been to Korea. We were in Korea in season 3 in 2008, actually.
Okay, that was a while.
That's before people know of esports, Carmac. You can't talk about anything before 2010 on this show. Just joking. I'm just joking. I've been quite impressed with actually a lot of the people that call in. They know a lot about esports well before StarCraft 2. It's refreshing. It's good.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, Our viewers are great, man.
Yeah, we have the best viewers in all of esports. You know how all the radio stations say that, but I think we do. We have the smartest, most wonderful viewers in all of esports shows. Much better than the two good guys. I'm just joking. They're great guys too.
Well, okay, so that's going to be it for Q&A, the Q&A segment. But we're starting this one last segment that we're going to do, just starting to do every show, which is I think John's going to do a segment where, why don't you explain it, dude?
Okay, so hopefully it's not just me though, Chris. Hopefully I can share it with you and then we can discuss it. It can sometimes maybe turn into an argument, or I don't know if it ever will. But what we'd like to do is, we kind of started this organically on our own. We talked about pushing it forward, or paying it forward, I think is what we used.
Yep.
Where we talk about something, that's happening later after our show that you can certainly tune into, and we want to share it with the rest of the esports community. So the idea was kind of, I'd love to have that, by the way. I'm checking the chat. James Harding versus John Clark fight. That'd be awesome. His hair would get in the way, though. But anyway, back to my thing. So the segment is going to be probably about 5 minutes, hopefully not too much longer than that, at the end of each show or towards the end, where each week whether it's through Twitter or Reddit or just somebody's giving me a link, sometimes you run across these programs, these websites, these people that are doing things in esports that as a whole we don't hear about. Maybe it's a website that does rankings. Oddly enough, you'd be surprised the number of people that follow StarCraft 2 that have never heard of SC2 rankings, right? And so there's websites that we can share, and hopefully we can open the eyes to 10, 20, 30 people that haven't seen it before, and they can spread it. And some of these things can become more part of what everybody uses. So, and it will apply to all different games. I mean, if it's something really cool for Black Ops, console, I know most of the people here would be like, whatever. But it's something that adds to esports as a whole. And I think it's an interesting thing that each week we can just spend 5 minutes talking about something like that.
Okay, so sounds good, yeah.
Yeah, so this week, and these are people I've talked to about in the past, and it just made sense for this to be kind of the first segment. And I won't talk about it much, but I'm going to share a link in the chat, and this is directly to my profile.
Well, I'll show it to.
Okay, so you're going to bring it up? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, here we go.
I'll put the link. But this is Duckster.com, so I hope that most people know what Facebook is, right? And I hope they don't mind me comparing these two, but think of this as Facebook for esports. And I know that other esports organizations, in fact, when we were at GGL Carmac, they kind of wanted to do that whole, we want to be the social media, before social media was social media, we want to be the Facebook of esports. Well, Duckster.com, and I've talked with them quite a bit, they've asked some opinions from me, and the site is really evolving. And it's an interesting site because the one thing that I like about it that we don't get when we talk on this show, or when you go listen to the good show and things like that, is it's bridging that gap that we do talk about on the show, but they're actually doing it where they're reaching a part of the community, of gaming community, that maybe you don't see us reaching on a daily basis. I mean, some Farmville guy's not going to come watch this show, and he doesn't understand it. But this Duckster website, thank you for the profile pic. It is a good profile pic. But this Duckster website is really interesting in that it is like a Facebook. It's definitely going to take some time to catch on to more of the hardcore esports fans, but I think it offers some very interesting things. I've played with it in the past. I know they've done a lot of new things to it lately, and I have no time for my own Facebook, so I haven't been here too much lately, but I just posted something and thought was really cool, and as soon as I put in, and I don't know if this is something normal, but as soon as I put in the link to this show, it automatically embedded the stream right onto my profile page, which I thought was pretty cool. But it's definitely coming along. I think it's definitely something that if you're an esports enthusiast, these are like gaming enthusiasts. So this would be a good opportunity this would be another avenue for you to get out and have an opportunity to expose your show or whatever it is that you might be doing, to share with others about events that maybe you're running, or about the IEM event or the MLG event, and you want to share it with people that may not, they're just on that cusp. They're gamers, they compete, but they don't know nothing about MLG, and you'd be surprised the number of people that do. They have no clue what MLG is, or what ESL or IEM or any of these things are. And I think this is, and you can create communities. I'm just looking at how they told me. I asked them yesterday, give me some feedback on some things they're doing, and you can create a community. So very similar to Facebook, but again, this is separating your Facebook life from your gaming life, and it's very directed at gaming. So I think it's definitely something that may interest some people.
Julia's page is much more interesting than yours, man.
Is it? Oh, I know. She's been actually working with, or kind of working with them for quite some time. Yeah, I don't have much on there, actually, do I? I don't even have hardly any friends. Look, I got 3 friends. So you need to go to my profile. You need to set it up, and we'll be friends. And that way I can say at least I lead, maybe I have more followers on Duckster than Carmac does. And so I can say I have that up on him or something. But actually cool, what they did is when I reached out to Duckster to let him know that I was going to position them and show them on the first segment, they gave me 5 $10 iTunes gift cards. And not every company that we talk about is going to do this, because most of them may not even know we're going to do it. But I did reach out to them, ask them kind of what's coming up in the, with what they're doing. But they're giving me 5 $10 iTunes cards. And so if you go sign up under the link that I gave you, it sets a referral rate. It's like me giving you a referral, and they'll pick from the winners of the people that signed up. But I want to make it clear, we're not a sponsor. People aren't coming to us to do sponsorships.
This is the paid advertising portion of Climbing the Ladder, guys.
No, I want to make it clear that that's not the case. It's just when I reached out to them and told them I was going to do, they said, hey, well, we'd love to help you with that. So yeah, her page has a lot more to it, like all sorts of things. So that's
cool.
it.
Sounds good, man. Segment. Yep, social networking and gaming, such social networks have always is definitely a good thing. And check it out. We have Duckster Queen in like one of our chats too, right?
Yep.
So
and she tunes in about every week too. So
there she is, right there.
She's getting involved.
Yeah, it's really cool. All right, so why don't we go into shout-outs, guys? I know it's getting kind of late for you, Carmac, so I really appreciate you coming on today. And it's always fun having discussions with you. They're never boring, that's for sure.
Thank you.
But you want to do any shout-outs?
Nope.
No shout-outs? Man,
nope.
That's
who cares, really? It's boring. Come on, man.
John, shout-outs.
Okay, so a shout out to the International Gaming League, which is the IGL. And that's the company that I'm working with now. And I've got the nice new t-shirt on. I'm getting ready to take to PAX with me this weekend. Are you going to be at PAX, Carmac?
Yes.
PAX Tees? Okay, well, I'll see you there. And maybe I'll try to lift you, which probably won't happen. But
no, please don't.
Oh, it's okay for you to lift other people, but people can't.
No. I'm suffering from how do I say this? Still carrying a knee injury. So
okay, yeah, definitely stay away from that then. Yeah, I know how that is. But so a shout out to the guys at IGL for bringing me out there, giving me an opportunity to really go to an event, probably for the first time where I don't work it, and I get to just enjoy it and network. So shout out to all the guys at IGL. Look for some big things. We're gonna have a 30-second commercial running through that time period through PAX, and
awesome.
Going to be announcing some new things. Our open beta is opening up soon, so it should be good. So definitely a shout out to those guys. Shout out to you, Chris, for putting up with me each week. Shout out to you, Carmac, for coming on and again. And a shout out to every single one of those in chat, even those that disagreed with my little rant, and because that's really what makes this show what it is.
Yep.
Hopefully it's not about fluff. Hopefully we can share ideas honestly and openly and disagree.
Yep.
So that's it.
My shout-outs, I just want to obviously give shout-outs to my mods as usual. Give a shout-out to Residox for always doing the audio versions of this. I mean, I don't do any of it, so he's so awesome that way. I mean, there's not many things that I don't have my hands in when it comes to all my projects, and that's one thing I actually don't have to do anything with, which is really, really nice. So always a big shout-out to him. And I think that's going to be about it. Next week, working on having the Day 9 TV team on here to talk about just really the planning of the community party and the launch party. So talking to Karen, those folks over there, I don't know if Sean will be on here, but definitely folks from the Day 9 TV team. I think it'd be cool because nobody ever gets a chance to hear from those guys. So yep, gonna have them on here hopefully, and if not, it'll be somebody else interesting, and I'll announce it, of course. But next week too, I'm gonna actually be starting a new project right after the show, which I think a lot of you guys will think is kind of interesting. So I'm not going to announce it quite yet, but be on the lookout for it. It's going to be Tuesday right after Climbing the Ladder, and it's going to be interesting. But I think that's going to be it for now. The VODs will be up later tonight, youtube.com/ChanmanV. Follow me on twitter.com/ChanmanV for all show updates. And follow Carmac on @MBCarmac on Twitter, or twitter.com/MBCarmac. And John is, what is it now?
ES underscore. My Twitter.
Yeah.
ES underscore John Clark. Yep.
Yep. And that's going to be it. So for John, it's for ChanmanV, John Clark, and Carmac. We will see you next week. See ya.
Thanks.